In today's session, we're gonna discuss about the web servers monitoring and optimizing the URLs to deliver better user experience when your website is accessed and to deliver a rich set of experience for all your customers worldwide. And finally, we'll be discussing on website content monitoring to prevent website defacement for secure bank sites like banking, healthcare companies. Let's see how a website is modeled. As you can see here in this picture, web components like Apache, application components like Java, .NET, Ruby on Rails were tightly programmed with each other. That is, when a user sends a request from a browser, the web server handles the request, and there is a backend program, that is the Java program, which handles the specific module code. And by this way, the DB is again connected back to the programs. If any of these component goes down, that's a website outage. So it is crucial to monitor all these components end to end. So in the today's session, let's focus on delivering the right website monitoring solutions for your companies, or it could be MSPs. And finally, performance related bottlenecks for all your solutions. Let's get started. Your organization's monitoring strategy is definitely a long-term plan for addressing the platform performance over time, and it is essential for getting the most benefit out of your monitoring data. Businesses that implement strong monitoring practices definitely find it easier to resolve service disruptions. Businesses which is looking to develop a monitoring strategy is recommended to consider the best practices which we are going to discuss today. As we all know that IT teams are nowadays managing more moving parts than ever, and that means there is more to monitor due to dynamic web pages from the end user's perspective. And the monitoring teams have to keep eye on every elements of the web pages to make sure that you are delivering a rich set of user experience for your customers. Now let's see why web server monitoring is important. So downtime and slow web page loading time is definitely due to the result of inefficient web server resources, or that could be an backend IT infrastructure outage. Uptime of web servers like Apache, IIS, Nginx matters a lot, irrespective of the fact either you're running a corporate, personal, or blogging site. Definitely, it is tend to affect both sales and branding assets of your website. So enterprise organizations must definitely invest in effective web server monitoring solution to prevent revenue loss and brand degradation. Also, you might be knowing that the poor website performance adversely, in fact, affects the search engine rankings and customer satisfaction. So now let's see the technical importance of the web server monitoring. The job of a web server is to serve websites on the internet. And the web server is not actually a physical server. It's a software running on a top of host server. Could be a Linux or Windows or Solaris. It could be of anything. So let's see why the web server monitoring is important in terms of technical aspects. The poor web server performance could result in the website downtime if the web server is running out of capacity. So what do we mean by the web server running out of capacity? That is, if the web server is unable to serve the request which is received from the client due to high loading, that's where the web server running out of capacity, and this requires highly scalable solutions like effective load balancers is required to prevent these kind of issues. Also, web servers, if there is any specific component failure, that is in the earlier slide we have discussed about the SQL DBs and component like Java, .NET. If there is any component failures, that could in fact adversely affect the performance of your website. In the today's webinar, we are going to discuss about this in detail. Let's dive deep into this. So Applications Manager acts as an agentless solution for monitoring your web servers. Since web servers handle user requests for content, their performance has an immediate and noticeable impact on the user experience. If your web servers are slow, users will maybe is expected to abandon your service for a competitive service. In fact, this applies to large sites as well. BBC found that every 1 second increase in page load time 10% of the users is moving to a different site. Additionally, monitoring will help you to notify any errors or failures that could result in downtime. In Applications Manager, we support popular web servers monitoring like Apache, Nginx, IIS, and HA proxy. Let's get started with the Apache web server monitoring. As we all know that Apache is an open source web server, and if you are using Apache as your web server, you may want to be informed of the performance related bottlenecks before they manifest themselves as an user facing issues. So let's see how Apache's web server is processing the request from the client. When a client sends a request from the web browser, the request is handled by the Apache's process, and it triggers a child process, and then by this way it handles the user request. So now let's see how Applications Manager can help you in monitoring your Apache server. Applications Manager, as we said, it's an agentless solution for monitoring your Apache server, and all you have to do is, as you could see in this presentation, you need to provide the IP address of the specific Apache server machine, port number, and Apache status URL. By default, based upon the IP address and port, we construct the status URL, and if you would like to modify that, you can definitely do that, and I will show you that in the UI with a real hands-on experience. So now let's see, once it is discovered, the next step is to monitor the key performance indicators of your Apache server. So let's see that. Some of the most important metrics that will help you to gauge your server's health, including the rate of request that your Apache server is receiving, request latency, error rates, and most importantly, Apache is often compared to the other popular web servers like Nginx and IIS. Even though each of which has its own strong suits, Apache has been widely adopted because it is completely open source and its modular architecture is highly customizable to suit many different needs, because Apache isolates its core functionality, that is the way it handles the request from the rest of its modules. So now let's see the key performance indicators like response time, busy servers, availability of your Apache server, bytes transfer, one by one. Apache request details. So if Apache is processing the request slowly, you may want to know why it is processing slowly. And it could be due to other components of your web stack, such as long-running queries or execution of code could be off. Monitoring all your systems in a way that you can correlate performance data across components helps to identify such kind of issues. If your metrics indicate that latency is due to Apache itself, you may want to experiment. Probably the web admins might be knowing that you may want to reduce the keep alive timeout to prevent the worker threads from being blocked, which is longer than necessary. If the rate of request is dramatically increasing, you may want to take measure to make sure that you have enough resource to handle the load. If there is high number of traffic to the Apache server, you may want to find that could be an illegitimate traffic. So those kind of information needs a strong monitoring. So now let's see the busy servers monitoring. At its most basic level, Apache processes client requests and delivers response back to the clients, which we all know. Resource utilization and activity metrics can help you determine whether your servers are effectively utilizing the system resources and whether they have enough capacity to complete their work. If you consistently see a large number of idle processes or workers, you may want to do, as we have discussed, the admins might be knowing the min spare threads information or min spare servers has to be lowered on the specific server's configuration. If you have very few idle workers at all times, you may see slower processing times because your server continuously needs to span new processes or threads to handle new requests. Let's switch back to the product and see how you can monitor the Apache server in a real time. So as you could see, we are in the Applications Manager user interface, the web console. Let me show you the regular workflow of adding a web server. On the left hand side, we have a specific option called new monitor and choose add new monitor. In the web servers category, choose Apache server, and all you have to do is provide a unique name for the identification purpose and the IP address of the Apache server and the port number, and if the Apache server is enabled with authentication, you can specify the username and password. Then you can test your credentials and click add monitor. So by using the simple step, it is quite simple and straightforward to add your Apache server. Once it is added, we discover the Apache server and we start monitoring it right away. So let me show you how the data looks like after the discovery process. So let me take you to one of the Apache server which I have added earlier, and let's discuss about the performance metrics. As you could see here, this is one of the Apache server in an UAT environment, and you could see the response time of your Apache server. That is crucial, as we have discussed about in these slides. You could see these spikes between a specific time and analyze why there's a spike in the specific time, and you can correlate the spike with the additional metrics and see what exactly is happening inside your server. Either it could be a host level metrics problem or it could be an activity metrics problem. So all those metrics can be easily correlated and you can find the overall performance of your Apache server. Here you can find the request details along with the request which the Apache server is receiving based on per minute value, and the bytes per request, which is the 931 bytes, and busy servers information, which is you could see the busy servers is queue and idle servers count. And all you have to do is just configure an alarm for it and get notified if more number of idle servers or more number of busy servers. Now let me show you how you can drill down to the response time data and how you can actually find the performance related bottlenecks with specific to the response time. So as you could see here, this is the reporting data of the response time attribute of the Apache server, and you could easily find the minimum, maximum and average value. The minimum value was by 7 p.m. That's where the server's response time is very less, and the maximum is 3000, which was by 7. By this way, you can actually analyze when your server is overutilized and when it is underutilized. And other important metric which I personally recommend is the 95th percentile, which obviously states that it is 95th% of the specific attribute, and monitoring this specific key metric will allow you to make sure that you are monitoring the servers effectively. So now let me go back to the presentation and we will start off with IIS Server Monitoring. So IIS is one of the server developed by Microsoft, and IIS Server Monitoring is again one of the crucial factor for the business, banking and healthcare applications. And as we all know that IIS Server definitely it's an easy to set up server, and you may want to organize your monitoring strategy around the fact that IIS components, as you could see here in this image, the IIS components are split into multiple sub-components of Windows processes and drivers. We will just take a look at these components and then discuss why these components monitoring is important, which will help you to make sure what component IIS is using and why it is required to monitor. So let's have a basic understanding of this working behavior of this IIS server. When a client initiates a request, that is the one, it initiates a request from the browser, and that request is being intercepted by the HTTP protocol http.sys. Once the request is intercepted, then this request is routed to the Windows Activation Service. Then Windows Activation Service contacts the application host config and it gets the information from the configuration, and the information received by the Windows Activation Service will be used by the worldwide publishing service, and it again contacts the application pool, gets the information of the worker processes, and by this way it uses the application pool and worker processes, and the request is being actually handled by the worker process. So it is crucial to monitor the application pools and worker process, which actually handles your request. Let's see how you can discover your IIS server using Applications Manager. So as we all know that tracking the volume of requests will definitely give you an idea of how busy your server is and serves as a starting point of understanding how well your IIS configuration is working. HTTP metrics can also help you to identify bottlenecks. So to discover your IIS server, all you have to do is again specify the IP address and port number, we discover it. And so now let me take you to the key performance indicators of the IIS server. So the main advantage of using IIS as a web server is all the metric is available via Windows performance counters. When a web application or a website slows down, the issue could be IIS or the web app itself. If it is a multi-tied application, the similarly high memory utilization, inadequate system resources could also lead to slower response time, which definitely impacts the end user experience. So see what other server IIS is communicating and start monitoring the key resources across your servers and websites. The key performance indicators were website statistics, worker process, availability of your IIS server, and the response time. So to ensure that your users can access your content, you may need to monitor the availability of the several components of the IIS server. You may want to know when your application pools have started, restarted, or it is running. So entire component details is definitely needs to be notified. You may also want to get alerted if IIS server is no longer listening for HTTP requests. In this section, we will discuss IIS metrics that give you deep insight into the availability of your web server. As we know that this website, which is hosted, is definitely acts as the primary phase for your business communication with your customers. And so real-time monitoring of your website is quite important. Availability and the response time of website during a critical user access serves as the metrics for determining the end user experience. Applications Manager provides drill down data to the website statistics. Again, as we have discussed, this is going to be an agentless solution of IIS server monitoring. It can monitor the bytes and files transferred per second in your website, and tracking gives you more clear picture of how fast your website is responding. Comparison of these statistics over a period of time will help to find a trend, which in turn facilitates a higher bandwidth to the website. Also, you can estimate the number of users on your website. App Manager monitors the number of the count of anonymous or non-anonymous users per second in your website. If there is a higher number of anonymous or non-anonymous users, can maybe sometimes be a cause of someone could be abusing the site. So that needs a critical monitoring. Now let's discuss one of the most important aspect of this IIS server monitoring, that is the app pools and worker process. The worker process conducts the main work as we have discussed in the architectural image of the web server, that is it handles the client server and serving responses. So IIS server can handle requests with multiple worker processes at a time depending upon your configuration, each of which runs as an executable W3 WP process belonging to a few application pools, so which keeps these applications mutually isolated. So what is the advantage of keeping these applications isolated? Say for example, you might have hosted multiple applications on top of an IIS server. If one application is down, the other application will not be affected because each is running in a separate isolated app pool. Worker process in one pool do not share resources with other pools. By this way, you can pass configuration settings to a single pool too. For instance, throttle the CPU utilization of its workers, and by this way, the administrators can customize these settings. Now, let's see how Applications Manager helps you to monitor this in an out-of-box way, and you can prevent the performance-related bottlenecks before the users were affected. Let me take you to the UI. So once the IIS server is added in the web servers category, you can choose IIS server. So as we've discussed, the response time attribute is the key metric for the web servers. Not only for IIS server, it is applicable for IIS, Apache, Nginx, every web servers. So, and the website statistics, which is specific for the IIS server, you put Application Manager discovers all the websites posted on top of this IIS server automatically, and it starts collecting the availability, health, and bytes transferred, files transferred information specific to all your websites. You can again drill down to a specific website. Say for example, let me just drill down to this site, and you could see the current number of connections value, maximum connections, bytes transferred, non-anonymous users, and the anonymous users value, which we have discussed in this slide. And other important attribute is application pools. So we discover all the application pools, and we determine the availability, health of the application pools with its CPU usage, memory usage, and number of worker process information. And also, we provide the host level metrics. Since this IIS server is running on top of a Windows server, it is crucial to monitor these host level metrics, that is CPU, memory, disk of the Windows machine also. So in a single pane of glass, we show you all the values. Now let me take you back to the presentation, and we will discuss about the other web server monitoring for today. That is one of the most popular web server out there, that is Nginx. So Nginx is again going to be an HTTP server, and it can in fact act as a reverse proxy server. As a job of the HTTP server, Nginx serves the static content very efficiently and reliably, and most importantly, it uses relatively little memory when compared to the other web servers. As a reverse proxy, it can be used as a single control point of access for multiple backend servers or for additional applications such as caching and load balancing. It could be of F5 load balancers. So now let's see how you can discover your Nginx server. By monitoring Nginx server, basically you can catch two categories of issues. That is the problems developing in the Nginx server itself, or there could be a problem elsewhere in the other web infrastructure. So Nginx has an event-driven architecture that doesn't create a new process for each request. Instead, it handles every incoming request in a single thread. This master processes manage several worker processes that perform the actual processing of requests. By this way, the Nginx acts as a more powerful and efficient web server. The event-based model of the Nginx distributes user requests among the multiple worker processes in an efficient way, therefore leading to much better scalability. Now let's see the key performance indicators of the Nginx monitoring. The metrics most Nginx users will benefit from monitoring is response time, active connections, as you could see here. See, the response time or the request per second provides a high-level view of the combined end-user activity. The response time actually describes how long your servers are taking to process the client request, which can point to slowdowns or other problems in your environment. Let's see how a request is being handled by an Nginx server. That is the basic activity monitoring of Nginx server. So why we are discussing the activity monitoring is, by understanding the concept of Nginx activity, we can see which components needs to be monitored in the Nginx server. Whatever your Nginx use cases, you will be no doubt wanted to monitor how many client requests that your servers are receiving and how those requests were actually being processed by this Nginx server internally. When the client sends a request that it receives and it again handles, the Nginx worker process picks up a request for the connection from the operating system. If the worker fails to get a connection for the request, then the connection is dropped ordinarily. By this way, you can also limit the Nginx worker connections once the limit has been reached. Just an information, if you have any questions then and there, please feel free to drop in the webinar chat panel. Our expert panelist is available to answer all your questions. Well, now let's continue. You can monitor the Nginx active client request in various states. That is, as an active connection, maybe an active connection could be in a waiting state, as you could see here. If there is no active request at the specific moment, new connections can bypass a specific state. Probably the Nginx may not receive the notice of the work at a specific point in time. Connections will also be in the waiting state after sending a response. The connection is set to keep alive. So let's see how you can monitor the request in writing state and request in waiting state. Let me take you back to the product UI and we will discuss about this. So we are in the product UI. So let me choose the monitors category, Nginx, and we have discussed about the response time. So you could see a spike in the response time over a set of period of time, and that seems to be a pattern in the response time. By this way, the web admins can analyze what is the reason behind these spikes for the specified time, and the active connections value gives a clear picture of how fast or how much loaded this web server is, and request per second actually gives you the number of requests which we have discussed, and the request in writing state and waiting state which we have discussed in the activity monitoring of Nginx. This helps you to keep a track on all the key metrics which is crucial for effective web server monitoring. With this, let me switch back to the presentation, and we will discuss about the other topic for today, that is optimizing individual URLs to deliver better user experience. So the website monitoring of applications manager is split into 4 types. That is, the basic one is URL monitoring, and then we have URL sequence monitoring and website content monitoring, and finally we have real browser synthetic monitoring. We will discuss this one by one. Let's start with HTTP URL monitor. So why a URL needs to be monitored? So this URL monitor acts as a simple regular HTTP check. That is, we perform a GET request to the specific website, and if the website sends a response with 200 status OK, that means the website is up and running. The web server is able to send back the response to us. By this way, we keep a track on the HTTP URL monitors, and we provide the additional metrics for the ID of stream, that is the DNS time, connection time, first byte and last byte time, which gives you clear connection of this web servers and the website. So let me take you to the UI and just show you how this URL sequence monitor actually looks like. So we are in the UI, in the monitors category, in the web servers. I will choose HTTP URL, and let me take one of the site. So as you could see here, this is the URL which I am trying to monitor, and the response time retrieved by the specific URL, and its average response time and the current response time of the specific website, and response time split up for a period of time, and DNS time, connection and first byte and last byte time information. Also, we provide you additional options in the URL while configuring the URL monitor. Either you can perform a post request or get request, and if you would like to send any request parameters, and you can post those requests right here. And if the website requires pop-up based or NTLM based authentication, you can specify those here along with its username and password. And most importantly, client side, if any website requires client side authentication, we support those kind of websites monitoring. For that, you can just enable this option, and which will prompt you to upload the certificate. Then just click upload certificate and upload your specific PE12 certificates right here, and provide this password for the specific certificates. So now let me switch back to the presentation, and we will talk about the URL sequence monitoring. So the one which we have discussed is a basic URL monitor. Let's see why URL sequence monitoring is required, what URL sequence actually tells us. URL sequence monitor works similar to URL monitoring itself, except the fact it allows you to monitor several web pages in a sequence. Say for example, if a user starts on a shopping cart page and goes through the checkout and payment page, so here he is accessing 3 web pages one by one. So every web page is monitored in the sequence it was clicked. So the performance statistics for these web pages were collected, which includes the availability, the response time, DNS time, which we have discussed in the URL monitor. So now let me show you how you can perform a URL sequence monitor using Applications Manager. For this, you need a specific tool called Web Transaction Recorder, which will help you to capture the URL sequences. So let me give you a hands-on demonstration for this. I have downloaded the web transaction recorder in my machine, and let me show you how to capture the URL sequences. So this is the web transaction recorder. Once it is downloaded and installed, this is how the user interface looks like. And here you have to provide the host name of the applications manager installed machine. And here I'm going to provide the host name and the SSL port number. Please note, application manager supports two different type of ports. One is for HTTP port, and other one is for the HTTPS access SSL port. So since we use HTTPS secure communication, it is necessary to provide the HTTPS SSL port. If you are not sure what your SSL port is, you can open the amserver.properties file, which is located in the app manager conf folder. Then you can verify that. So after providing these values, you can just click connect. Provide the username and password which you log in for applications manager. And after login, you have two options which looks like, that is create a URL sequence monitor and create a real browser monitor. So now we'll be going with create a URL sequence monitor. So let me choose this and specify the URL which you would like to record. Pick URL right here, and I would like to monitor the technical support page for applications manager. And let me just click preview and save. Click preview and save, the pop-up appears wherein it prompts for a sequence name. So let me just provide a sequence name for it and the poll interval. And if you would like to add the same sequence as a real browser monitor, you can very well do that. So with this, I am just clicking next. And you could see the URL has been already captured, that is applications manager page. And there could be few other URLs which may prompt to an additional URLs, third-party links. So those kind of URLs can be filtered by using the filter option right here. So you can just specify the extension, URL extension to be filtered, CSS, JPG formats, and the content compared to be filtered. So by using this option, you can filter these options automatically, or if you wanted to manually delete it, you can just choose those one by one, delete it. Also, if you click advanced section, here we provide content check for a specific website. That is, if a specific keyword is present in the website, then we generate an alert. So here you can just specify the keyword in a double quotes as we have mentioned, and if this is present in the website, then alerts can be generated. If the keywords are not present, similarly alerts can be generated. Then you can click create URL sequence monitor, and as you could see that a prompt saying that monitor created successfully. So now we can go back to the applications manager web console and see how the data actually looks like in a real-time perspective. So we are in the applications manager UI, and let me show you a URL sequence monitor right here. So this is the URL sequence monitor, and let's take this as an example. So you could see here the sub URLs has been already captured by the applications manager, which in fact monitors the availability and health of the sub URLs along with the parent URL. And you can see the combined metrics of the response time of the individual URLs, that there is a spike in the specified time, and the average value and current value information. You can drill down to a specific metric by just clicking the specific view details option, and you can view the individual URL's response time, which is similar to URL monitor also. And you have an option to configure alarms right here, through which you can configure alarms for the connection time, response time, critical metrics. So with this, let me switch back to the presentation and discuss about the next topic for today. So we are in the presentation now. So we have discussed about the URL sequence monitor. And the third topic for today, which is one of the advanced feature, that is synthetic transactions monitoring for dynamic web pages. So let's see why synthetic transactions monitoring is required. So if you ask any web administrators or any DevOps team, they would rather say that pushing a new code into the production site is definitely a challenging task for them because they are not sure what exactly is going to happen when the code is actually into the production site. Either it could be that the feature may go down, it could be successful, might not be successful. So how to test your website's specific code production before it is actually implemented? Either you can set up a synthetic transactions monitoring in those cases, or you can in fact perform using our APM insight, which we have discussed in the week 1 of this training series. So let's see how you can perform the website's monitoring using the synthetic transactions for the dynamic web pages. So as we all know that providing seamless end user experience for your website's visit is crucial for every component. With business expanding at global level, monitoring the website from different locations tend to be an important factor. So let's see how you can monitor your websites from different geographical locations for critical workflows, and how you can prevent the code push problems before it actually affects the end users. Let's understand how the end user journey it actually works, and how it actually starts. So end user journey starts when a user sends a request from a web client to the browser, and then the web server responds back. That is which we have discussed in previously, Nginx, IIS, those. The end user journey is continued until the session is terminated. So end user journey may have multiple paths. If it's a sales site, someone go to a site and purchase the products. If it is marketing, someone promote the products by using bulk campaigns. By this way, every business have its own unique importance workflows. So how those workflows can be monitored, especially for banking and healthcare companies. You can install or deploy the end user monitoring agents in different locations from where you would like to track your website. All you need is a secure HTTP connection between the agent and the applications manager server. The UM agent pings the application manager server at a specific time interval and gathers the information, and the playback data is sent to the applications manager. Let's discuss these components in a detailed perspective using our real browser monitoring feature. So what is real browser monitoring? This is what we have discussed, synthetic transactions monitoring. In order to guarantee a seamless user experience for your website, monitoring the websites and key transactions is important. So how to find the key transactions monitoring and find the response time for individual multi-step user interactions with your web applications. That is by using the real browser monitoring feature of Applications Manager. So you can perform a mimic of the user interaction, monitor the websites from around the world. And this third point, as you could see, reduce the blame game between application and network team. So what is this? You may, if your website is down, the first question which might come in your mind is, that is, you may ask your application team that the website is not accessible, but they tell that everything is fine in the web servers and there is no problems with app components. But what if there is a problem with network team? So those kind of application layer problems and network layer problems can be easily isolated using a real browser monitoring feature. So now let's see how we can dive deep and record a web script. So we will be using the same web transaction recorder for performing a real browser monitoring recording, and I'll take you to the web transaction recorder and I'll show you how those can be done. As we have discussed, you can monitor the critical workflows. In most apps, there are several different journeys depending on what choice the customers make while navigating the application. To make these user journeys easy, we still need to collect the URL and page performance metrics from an end user point of view. So Applications Manager understands this from a user point of view, which is why we bundled a Firefox browser with the end user monitoring agent, where the actual playback happens. That is how a user is treating your application. That is, he is moving the cursor, clicking a specific site, clicking an element, and then loading, performing a keyboard interaction. So all these set of interactions will be played back in the actual Firefox browser, which is bundled with the end user monitoring agent. So we provide deeper visibility into multiple step user interactions. So by this way, it allows you to record and replay a set of transactions that your user is likely to have while accessing your web application. Replaying the same transactions on EUM agent during every poll helps if the transactions are occurring seamlessly or if there are any bottlenecks hindering optimal website performance. So let me switch back to the web transaction recorder and I'll show you how to capture these sequences. Let me just log out right here and provide my host name and SSL port number. And after providing this, let me choose the username and password. And after providing this, now I'm going to choose the option which is available on the bottom right hand, that is create real browser monitor. So let me choose this and the URL to begin recording. So this is the most important factor. Specify the actual URL or the website. So for example, let me choose the specific URL, and as you could see here, this is the URL which I'm going to record it right here. And say for example, let me choose the sequence, that is I'm choosing this feature called Nginx monitoring and which is available in App Manager. Let me choose preview. So now let me gonna discuss this as Nginx, and the poll frequency you can just choose it based upon your business requirements, and page load time mode again based upon this page response time. Most important factor is select agents option. So as you could see here, there are two agents which is pointed to the specific applications manager machine, and that is one agent I have deployed it in Sydney, and other agent I have deployed it in London. So I would like to perform the same set of actions. That is, I have loaded the site, I have clicked the Nginx monitoring, and this playback will actually happen. I choose both of these locations and then click next. And you could see that the first step is I have loaded the site. The second step is I have clicked Nginx monitoring, and there was these mouse level and keyboard level interactions. Again, similarly, we have alert based mechanism right here. And you can just click perform test black if you would like to perform a test, and you can just click create real browser monitor. So now as you could see that the monitor has been added successfully. So this is the prompt. Now let me take you back to the UI and show you how the actual real-time data looks like. So we are in the applications manager user interface. So let's see how the data looks like. Let me click EUM right here. The Nginx is the one which we have added. The playback may take some time. While the playback is getting initiated, let me take you back to the other monitor which I have added earlier and see the performance level metrics. That is, you could see that the page response time and the transaction time for both of these locations when the same website is accessed, and that seems to be a response time spike when it is accessed from London. So let's go deep into this and find about that. So you could see the page load time when it is accessed from London, and the transaction time, and multiple step user interaction. That is, I'm loading the site, I'm clicking the gaming accessories, I'm clicking contact us. Every actions is recorded in a sequential steps, and you can also compare one with the other by choosing these options and compare reports. So by this way, this helps you to compare your reporting data. Also, you can drill down to a specific attribute and see how it is performing in a different way. And most importantly, we show you the performance metrics. That is the screenshot level information, the components, the resource size information, and the game and the waterfall model diagrams. So let me switch back to the presentation, and I'll show you the key important metrics for this. So we know that the end user monitoring agent provides the application's behavior from different locations. You can in fact optimize the front-end component. You can visualize the resource size and resource count, split up of all elements comprising your web pages, such as HTML, CSS, all those components, and the time-wise split time helps you to analyze to better optimization of web pages. And most importantly, as I have shown you from the UI, you can find the network level latency when your application is accessed from different locations. That is, each row here represents an object, that is text, images, JavaScripts, or it could be a third-party component. Each component makes a round-trip time between the user and back to the user. So whenever a single object on the page underperforms, your end users, whoever is accessing your site, may get negatively impacted. So it is crucial to monitor the network level latency. So let's see the need for synthetic transactions monitoring. This with Applications Manager, real-time website monitoring allows you to understand how your users navigate through your website, measure and monitor the critical performance metrics, and maintain your SLAs. So with this, let's discuss the final topic for today, that is the website content monitoring to detect unauthorized changes. One of the most important aspects of website monitoring for any business organization is monitoring the content posted on the website. So defacement is definitely one of the subtle forms of hacking where the content of the website is modified or by inserting a malicious code. Website defacement is again one of the biggest security challenges that IT security teams should definitely look into it. So Applications Manager helps you in monitoring these unauthorized changes. So let's see what is website defacement. It is typically done by the hackers who break into your web server and replace the content or script which is posted with their own techniques such as code injection or cross-site scripting. So website defacement, as you could see here, uh, they could modify the front-end elements of the page, that is to deface your website, and they could insert few HTML codes treat which may create a brand image for the specific website. So it is crucial to monitor those. So let's see how you can add a website content monitoring. So when you add your website content monitoring, we check the integrity of your website by detecting the modifications of the content and other critical elements. Once you set up the monitoring, we start polling the web page and record any detected web tampering. So by default, we capture the sub pages available in the main web page. By this way, which helps you to analyze the faster detection of security breaches on your website, either including unauthorized addition or modification of HTML elements, and how much percentage those elements were modified. So let me switch back to the UI and show you how you can add a website content monitoring. So we are in the Applications Manager user interface. So let me choose Add New Monitor and Website Content Monitor right here. And all you have to do is specify the domain URL right here and click Add Monitor. And by clicking the Get Web Pages option, you could see the sub web pages. So now let me show you how this actually looks like in a real-time environment. So let me take you to one of the sites which I have added. So as you could see here, this is the website, the primary website which I am monitoring is the euronews.com, and you could see the sub web pages in the specific page, that is the international page, the business page, and other pages, and you could see all those were captured individually. And the deface script version seems to be 22 and deface text is 38. So let me drill down to this category and show you what exactly is happening. When you click this health icon right here, you could see that this web page is defaced and the element is defaced as anchor, image, and link. So let's see what those elements are. So when you click this other elements defaced, you could see the defaced image details along with its original context value on the left side and the modified content value on the right side. So by this way, you get a clear picture of what exactly is happening inside your web server and get a real-time notification. If there is any iframe is modified, you get those information and the defaced link details. So using Applications Manager website content monitoring, we perform 6 type of HTML elements using our standard defacement check. That is text changes into the website, script changes, image changes. We identify the SRC attribute for the images, and for anchor we identify href, and iframe we identify SRC, and link we identify href. So we perform these 6 basic HTML elements monitoring, and we notify you if there is any unauthorized content modification or defacement done. So with this, let me switch back to the new presentation and discuss about the next. Almost we have come to the end of this session. And let's have a quick recap of what we have discussed. We have discussed about the web server monitoring, that is the popular servers like Apache, IIS, and Nginx. And we have discussed about the website performance to deliver better user experience using our URL monitoring and URL sequence based monitoring, and discussed about the synthetic transactions monitoring, which will help the users to prevent the end users problems from before the actual code push. And we have discussed about the unauthorized modifications done to your website using our website content monitoring. So with this, I will hand over this session to one of my panelists, Satya, who will discuss the questions which were asked during this course of webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask those as well. We will be discussing that. So let me switch over to Satya. Please hold, stay with us.